just counting down to the live stream starting. Are we going? Right, I think we're live. It's all yours, sir.
So, I think we're on microphone-wise. So to everyone both here in the room, this fantastic studio, and watching online, a very warm welcome to Holly Park Mills and the home of Hub for what is destined to be a unique and absolutely fascinating session here this morning. My name is David Pryor. I have a rich history dating back all the way to 1866. Just 4 years, in fact, before the formation of Leeds Rhinos, or as they were then known, Leeds St John, or the old Blue and Ambers, of course. But I'd suggest that over the course of the last 157 years, the number of bona fide sporting legends to have graced these buildings is perhaps on the thin side. So we are immensely privileged and grateful to be correcting that this morning. Now in a moment I'll be introducing our special guests, but first let me tell you a little bit about Prolific North and our partnership with Hub. Now Prolific North's first job is to inform, and over the last 10 years our website has documented the ups and downs and comings and goings of the North's creative and digital industries. But we also exist to celebrate and to connect, and we do that through a series of events across the year, from major award ceremonies to more niche events that bring our industry together. We also have a number of partnerships with agencies and other companies that we work closely with across the year, and this year we're very pleased to enjoy a great partnership with Hub. And out of this partnership has sprung the opportunity to bring together the worlds of sport and business for this morning's event. So firstly, a big thanks to Rob Shaw and the whole of the Hub team for hosting us here at Hub Studios and for making today happen. Now, let me introduce our two very special guests here today. They are both Super League and sporting royalty. Jamie Jones-Buchanan was a key part of Leeds Rhinos' golden generation, which won 7 Super League grand finals and secured the World Champions title in 2012. Awarded an MBE in 2022 for services to rugby league football and the community in Leeds, Jamie played his entire professional career with Leeds, representing England and Great Britain. He's now a rugby league coach and head of culture, diversity and inclusivity at Leeds Rhinos, and earlier this year became the first non-white member of the board. His former teammate Kevin Sinfield has become a household name, as much for his post-retirement activities as the glittering rugby career that preceded it. Representing Leeds Rhinos over 500 times across 18 years, with an incredible 13 of those as captain, he is the leading point scorer in Super League history, and in 2012 was named the world's best player. He also captained his country and is now defensive coach for England Rugby Union team. But it's been his dedication to charitable causes, most notably his incredible efforts to raise awareness and funds for the Motor Neurone Disease Association in honour of his friend and former teammate Rob Burrow that has been truly remarkable. This time last year, he was getting ready to take on the almost impossible task of running 7 ultra marathons in 7 days. Of course, he did it, raising the staggering sum of £2.5 million in the process, and overall his fundraising runs have raised more than £8 million for MND charities, giving hope to thousands of fighters of this dreadful disease. So please welcome our very special guests this morning, Jamie Jones-Buchanan and Kevin Sinfield. So I'd now like to hand over to Rob, CEO here at Hub, who will tell us a little bit more about this morning's event. Rob.
Thanks, David. I guess I'll start just by saying welcome to Kev, to Jamie, to people here, to people watching on the live stream. Welcome to Hub. Welcome to Hub Studios. This is Studio 2. Looking quite different to how it normally looks, as I was chatting to a few people earlier. Depending on the day of the week you're here, this is set up as room sets, producing TV adverts for blinds companies, If you get here on the right day, it's doing food photography for luxury food brands, or on any other day, it's producing digital content for mobility companies and bathroom companies. So it's been great to reset our facilities today just to be able to host something like this. I just wanted to take a minute just to explain how the event came about in the first place, because I'm not sure if you're aware, it was actually you were the catalyst to all of this. So earlier on this year, we asked Jamie if he'd come and speak to our teams in our offices that are next door. We'd asked Jamie to talk about his relationship with Ram Films, who are the guys who are doing our live stream today, and also talk about some of your backgrounds and your goals. And I think it's fair to say for some of the hub people that are here today, you kind of caught us off guard, and we got a lot more out of it than perhaps we thought we were originally going to. You talked a lot more about your values, your beliefs, your outlook on life, which we just thought was great. And towards the end of that, you talked about Kev's book. I think the book had only been published that week.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I went out and got the book, listened to it on an audio book, went through it in a week. I've always really enjoyed trying to work out what analogies we can draw from sport into the business world. Hub's a business that's growing, we're building teams, and there's just so much we can learn from successful people. So we thought we'd use our partnership with Prolific North to lay the event on today, just so that other people beyond just those at Hub can learn from some of your experiences, really. So that was the original catalyst for it. We've got 45 minutes of questions. As we said before, we've got a long list of questions, but depending on how chatty you are, we might get through one or two of these. But then we're going to open it up to everybody else that's here as well for 15 minutes of other questions, just to get as many learners as we can from two people who've had such a fantastic career to date.
Thank you.
So if it's all right with you, I'll make a start. The first one's actually for both of you, so I'll let you fight who's going to answer it first. Today's all about what businesses can learn from sport. As David said, you guys have had well-documented, successful sporting careers in really high-performing teams. Was there ever a moment or a thing that you can put your finger on when you knew you were part of something special?
You go first. No.
You go first.
You're rare. You're special guest. You
No, I'm
go,
not
mate.
special guest.
You go.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us here. You probably don't know our history. We're best mates, and I've been for a long time, so it's great to be back in Leeds and to be sat alongside Jamie. I'm not quite sure if there's ever a moment, because in sport, things move so quickly, and you can have a championship winning team, but within hours, you're thinking about what's next. And you don't celebrate them enough, because very quickly sport moves on. So I think certainly when I joined the Rhinos, I was a 13-year-old, so it's a long time ago now, but you joined a group of absolutely wonderful players, heroes who I'd grown up watching, the likes of Ellery Hanley, to name one. But a team that had failed to win trophies, and I think what came with our group, if you like, were a set of young players who were really hungry to succeed. We came through our junior teams, the academy together, we came through the reserves together, and we had no baggage. And at that time, there was a real push from the club to invest heavily in young players. The club had won numerous academy championships on the bounce, but probably failed in terms of getting the transfer of those young players into the first team and to be able to carry that success on. We was probably the group that were really supported to do that. And I say supported because the environment that was there for us, the senior players that were there at the time were very accommodating and welcoming for a group of young lads. Were very open to move in a different direction with us. And then what we got was a group who behaved differently to what had gone before us. Our standards were different to what had gone before, not better or worse, just different. And there was a hunger to win. And like with most things in life, if you get a taste of something and you enjoy it, you want it time and time again. And our group were pretty lucky because we won a couple of titles, and if we weren't in the big games at the back end of the year, we were disappointed. But within that was a core group of 5 or 6 players who held it together and knew exactly where we needed to be at what parts of the season, and had an unbelievable belief and confidence that when it came for those big games, we turned up. So that I don't think there was ever a moment, even when I finished my career, I look back and I sort of pinch myself and go, how did that happen? Because there was never a moment where I thought, you know, I've made it as a rugby league player. I never had that. And I don't think a lot of my teammates did either. We just wanted to be better every day. And that's probably the big message in all this. If you want to improve and be better, then our group were very much trying to push for that.
Right.
I think when you've got a synchronicity within the team, you know, this collective consciousness where you almost got this collective mind, you're all doing and saying the right things, the language is consistent. Kev talks about goals, objectives, behaviours, and we kept recurringly ending up in finals and giving ourselves opportunities to create history. And I think you can measure success through that, or being on the right path, being a successful group, and having the right culture. I'm ravenous at the minute. I'm really hungry to understand and learn from different people's cultures, because everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's environment's diverse and needs different things. We've all got different aims and objectives and desires in life. And you know, having retired, looking back, I didn't quite realise how special it was, the environment that I was in. Now, Kev's, apart from maybe with my wife, is the most important human being I've ever met, you know, as a leader and what I call this cultural architect. And he was the nucleus around which all of it revolved, and he pretty much set the standards and the values and the behaviours, and we adhered to him, not least people like me who's quite chaotic, you know, local lad from Bramley, always up to stuff. But when you come to the Rhinos, you know, we had this understanding that there was a way to behave, a way to perform in a very selfless way, where you know, we walked through them changing rooms at Kirksville and it's like a werewolf walking under a full moon. We turned into something different and became this collective, and then when we went home and we were ourselves. But I listened to this story recently. I had this story and I've used it a few times. I thought it was a great analogy when you're asking how do you know when you're a part of a successful culture, and basically these two little fish are swimming through water and they swim past this big fish. And big fish says to him, all right boys, how's the water today? And they both look at each other and go, what the hell's water? And you wonder, as a young fish, when you're in water, whether you actually know that you're in water. And at the time when I was living that life with Kev, in that first chapter of my life as a professional sports person, I didn't realise how good it was until it all disappeared. Until Kev left, and then that generation finished. And then you look back at it and go, wow. And culture, by the way, is not something you can copy and paste from one generation, from one moment in time to another one. It's got to continue through succession, but it's also, I believe, it's got to evolve as well into the new people, because everybody's different. And I, to be best version of myself, I can't be Kevin Sinfield, I can't be Rob Burrow, I've got to be Jamie Jones-Buchanan. And that next young person needs to be them, and that means it will evolve, but there are some absolute tangible values that you need to understand, underpin, if you want to have consistent success, I believe.
Can you read my questions, because you've set me up perfectly for my next one, because when you're talking about identifying that talent and finding those individuals to come into that team, are there certain things that you look for that you think that is going to complement our team, or certain things that you look for that think that's just never going to fit? Okay.
I think the difficulty here for both of us is recruitment when we're as players is something we played very little part in. That's done above us, either by head coach or CEO, or a combination of the two. Now, we would get asked our opinion at certain times of players we've played with, either at in representative teams, or players we've played against. However, you know, we did understand that within our team, like, we didn't always get stuff right. We made mistakes off the field. We had a number of players who were, for want of a better term, were rogues. But actually, within our environment, we were able to cope with them being in there and be a better team for it. Almost like, if you think of your vitamins and minerals, like, you need a bit of everything. And we didn't want this angelic environment. We needed, so it's a rugby team, right? So we needed to have some fun. We need to enjoy what we did, but understand as well what's right and what's wrong. And the vast majority of time, you know, I'd like to think we tried to get things right. There were moments that people crossed the line, which happens, and then how the group handled that and looked after each other was really important too. So within recruitment, what we found whilst we were playing was if someone was brought in who didn't fit and who didn't adhere to the standards or the behaviours we set, then for whatever reason they were moved out the club. Now that wasn't a conscious decision by either of us because we're playing, but they stood out like a sore thumb and they worked their own way out of the system or the environment. So that was done above us, but it was adamant. It's pretty clear to those above us that what was going on, and as players we put trust in our head coach and our CEO that they'd make sure we had as many good people in there as possible. And look, we're all in the same business, the people business, whether you're playing rugby or whatever it is you do. And getting the people right has been crucial for us. And what I always found, I use an analogy of a seesaw, that we had enough good guys that weighted the seesaw down, and we had enough in the middle that because of the weight here got pulled, and we were all right carrying a few up here because they didn't tip it. But the minute you start to lose a couple of your good ones, and you don't replace them with good ones, and it starts to tip, then those in the middle that normally come with the side that are making good decisions more often than not start to get pulled, and the minute it tips, it's really difficult to get it back. And if you look at somewhere like, there might be some Man United fans who are watching at the minute or who are part of this, but you look at what's happened at Man United over the last couple of years, the balance has tipped, and it's so hard when it tips to get it back because your recruitment is crucial. And as you all guys know, when you're recruiting people, it's really difficult because people want different things now.
It's a great analogy when he talks about the seesaw. I was probably on the other side of it, so I'm chaos by nature. Me and Kev, if you did a personality profile, we're complete opposites. And we were talking earlier, weren't we, that is the consistency, the methodical, the process guy. I'm the creative one, so Kevin decided this is what we need to do, this is why we need to do it, but how we do it, we'll turn it over to you guys, you be creative. The way that I like to, the analogy I always think about is if you get a child to draw a star and they draw two triangles, so one of them will be on its base, so that for me is a picture of stability, and you need that consistency, the kit that you're wearing, what time you turn up, all those little metrics that are really easily measurable, but sometimes as human beings we still don't have the ability to get it right. And then the other side of it is the creativity, the chaos, so that's an inverted triangle. If you put them on top of each other, they end up with a star. And that chaos is me, but you need that creativity to evolve. Do not see things, because things that have never happened before happen all the time. Unless you're willing to get off the beaten path, you're never going to see something new. But that triangle, without the stability of that triangle, is on its tip, and it's always ready to fall, and it'll fall over if it hasn't got a solid base of behaviours and values. And I'll just tell you a really quick story of how consistent Kev was, and how diligent, right, immaculate he was with it. We were chatting the other day, my very last training session, 420 games I'd played over 20 years. I'd won all them grand finals, I'd played international, so I was quite an experienced player. And I'm playing my last training session, and I goes into my loft and I found my very first training kit, right, from when I was 16. And I brought it to training, and I thought, I'm going to wear this for my last session. And it was an Asics kit, right, and it wasn't even Leeds Rhinos, it was Leeds RL, it was before the Rhinos brand come out, so it had the old crest. And I'm showing it to lads like Jack Walker, who weren't even born, who was in the team when I got given that kit. I said, I'm going to train in this today, my last session, first kit. Showed it to Kev, and he went, yeah, I remember that. He says, you're not training it though. What do you mean? He went, well, it's not the right brand, it's not Rhinos, it's not got Leeds building set on it, it's not Oxen. That's not what we do. I'm like, you mad? No, you mad? You're like, looking at him thinking, what job's rough here? Is he crackers? And at the time, I didn't get it. But looking back now, when you talk about what you need to do to keep the seesaw in the right angle, absolutely the right thing. And I didn't do, but it was absolutely the right thing. And that's where Kev went to the nth degree to make sure that stability, the balance of that seesaw stayed in the right place.
And although you didn't get to wear the kit, I'm guessing you tried it on the night before. Did it still fit?
It was probably bigger actually. I was bigger at 17, 18 than I am now.
I love it. Related to this sort of team building, there's a lot of people here from sort of corporate life, and we've all been involved in team building, and it can be a bit of a cliche sometimes as to what companies do for it. Is there any examples that you've got of absolute, actual things that you've done with your teams that work, that bring those people together, or is it just playing the game?
I think we've done our fair share of army camps. We've done our fair share of pre-season camps. We've done our fair share of personality profiling. The thing that I found has worked best when I look back is time. The more time you get to spend with people, the stronger your connections become. And because of the environment we've been in, a lot of it is around pushing your body to its max. And when you do that on your own, it's different to when you're doing it with a team and a group who are going through exactly the same. So I'd probably say adversity forged us together. Tough times brought us together. Even now, you still see it with, what's happened with Rob and the way our group have come together and the fundraising that has gone on. That is born out of horrible hill sessions at Roundhay Park. That has gone on. That has born out of getting smashed 40 points away at Wigan on one occasion or whatever it may be. It's gone through being in that cauldron together and having it tough. Now, how you guys create that, that's where you have to be creative in your approach. Some of the ways we've been able to do it off the field are for people to be prepared to make themselves vulnerable. And I think the minute you open yourself up to making yourself vulnerable and you put a trust in the group that you're with and the people you're around, you suddenly have a connection there. And that's a different way of creating that adversity. But we were able to do it over a number of years. The group where you share something real intimate and deep, and I think that has a real value and has had a real value in pulling teams together. And but like most things, you can't just throw 20 people together and say, right, go on, crack on, and it'll work. It's a marriage, it's a team, it's people who, you get that connection through spending time together. Unfortunately though, what I've probably found is it's through those tougher moments that really galvanise and pull those friendships that last a lifetime together, because we've been through however many training sessions that have been horrific, where you've turned up, you don't really want to do it, it's chucking it down, it's freezing, you're covered in mud and you're looking at each other going, what are we doing? But I'm looking in his eyes and he's looking in mine going, we'll do it together, we'll get on with it. And that's what good teams have.
When you're at Old Trafford, so just at grand final, contested by Wigan and Catalan, and I get asked all the time, 7 grand final rings, what's it like to line up at Old Trafford, theatre of dreams, and it's a bit of a slope and it's dark, and at the end of it is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's where chaos is, that's where the pyrotechnics are going off, the fire, the crowd and the noise. But that light is, to use a bit of a metaphor, when you talk about near-death experiences, the light at the end of the tunnel is almost like going into heaven, because on a Monday morning or 1st of January, when you're on Abbey Fields and it's snowing, it's freezing, and you're going, what we're doing here, you're preparing for that. And as a professional sportsman in Rugby League, right, you're walking and transcending, you're walking through this light into the absolute purpose of what you're here for on the planet. If we've all got a purpose, right, then that is my belonging out through that tunnel. So you transcend into this 80 minutes of absolute bliss where you can be whatever you want. You are being what you were created to be. And then people ask about the confidence, and Kev mentions the trust and the synchronicity between the players there. You look at Kev at the front, who's going to lead us out, and then behind him you might have a Jamie Peacock and a Ryan Hall or a Brent Webb or a Rob Brown or Danny Maguire, and you see the pain and adversity that they've put them through to prepare for this moment. But we're all walking out to fulfil our very purpose, right? And you get this trust and this confidence that they're going to do their job, they're going to come up with something amazing, like Rob Burrow's try in 2011. And Ryan Hall's big last one at Huddersfield, I know it's a different ground. And you almost look at the opposition and think, what, are you mad? How dare you even turn up and think you're going to beat this lot here? And as daft as it sounds, it's almost like you want to descend into hell and drag them with you, because you know that they can't tolerate it, they'll die first. And the darker and deeper and more adverse it gets, right, the quicker they're just going to implode, because they're not used to it. They're not willing to go to them depths. But when you ask the question at first, the first thing that comes to my mind is through pain and adversity. And I know Kev touched on that in the end. That is where, to use his words, people have forged teams, are forged and galvanised in this crucible. Faith is the most important part of my life, and there's a biblical quote: "The crucible's for silver, the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the hearts." And it's this idea that silver and gold, we get it out of the floor, it's mined, it's impure, we heat it up to thousands of degrees, put it under high pressure, get rid of the dross, and what you're left with is something pure. And that's, for me, what human beings need to go through. This pressure, this pain, this adversity, collectively, together, supporting each other. Know what you can't achieve or overcome when you do it together, as Kev showed with what he's done with Rob. And that, for me, is what creates a pure entity, gold. But it's got to come through pain and adversity.
I love it. Corporate team building, slightly different view going forwards on that. More adversity, less comfy hotels and
yeah,
breakfasts. You'd mentioned when you were in our offices, you talked about, and Kev's just touched on it, that mixture of capabilities and personalities that it takes to build a winning team. I think you used the analogy of lots of different types of fish, and I know it's a bit of a passion of yours. But can you manufacture that? Can you create that mix of the different personality types, or does it just have to evolve, or does it happen by accident?
I believe we've all made in God's image, and we've all got a different gift and ability. Everybody sat down here now has got a skill that they're good at, and when you're good at it, time will probably flow. And flow's a great word. It's the buzzword at the minute, isn't it? When you get into the flow, when you're being in the moment. So I think everybody needs an opportunity to thrive and realise their potential and flourish and master their craft, so that they are in the flow. And in terms of productivity, they'll be absolutely unbelievable at how productive they are, and you'll get so much effort and grace from them. They'll go above and beyond. And then once somebody knows who they are, what their purpose is, you just need to find them the belonging. So somebody come into our team, it might be an LLTT. An LLTT is a back rower, is not the same as me. We're a million miles apart in many respects. He was unbelievable at what he did, and I was just a real hard, industrious grafter. Ali was like X Factor, come up with some unbelievable moments. We all both had a different purpose, but within the context of the Leeds Rhinos, we were given a belonging. So at times, and there's a great passage in Kev's book when he talks about at different times, different people had to lead. Mm-hmm. So good leaders create leaders, and we all have an opportunity to lead at different moments. And when Ali had a chance to lead, he led really well, and I did my best. So you got that purpose, you get that belonging, and I think when you get in bed at night and think you've used your craft, your ability, your skill, for within the context of a collective group on a mission where we're all going in the same place. We've got the right people on the bus, you understand where the bus is going, everybody's absolutely clear on what that is and what your job role is. There's nothing that creates more contentment in my mind than thinking that you've had a great day's work doing what you're good at for the good of the whole. Mm-hmm. And then the other bits on top of that are really simple. It's physical and mental well-being. So that opportunity to exercise, looking after yourself, because the world is physical and we can't ignore the fact that we need to use our bodies to move around. I think your mental well-being will be the sum of all the other three parts. So if you're having an opportunity to thrive, if you've got a good place to use your craft, your skill, and you're physically in good nick, then your mental well-being is going to be, and I'm no clinical psychologist, but I reckon it's going to be in a good place. But what Kev and JP and the other leaders knew was that at certain points, different people had to have their chance to lead, and he gave us the opportunity to do that.
Right, yeah. We could probably talk for hours on this, but I think in its simplest terms for us, whether you can play rugby or not will get you in the room, get you through the door.
Right.
How long you stay there is up to you, because it's what type of person you are. Now, our dressing room would cater for and accept every single different personality and character type, but there were a couple that were got rid of pretty quickly. So some selfish individuals got moved on pretty quickly, not by us, but by above, because you can see it, because it stands out. People who didn't care about the team and each other, we moved on pretty quickly. Other than those two, we accepted everything. And we dealt with everything. Now, even within that, there's varying levels on a continuum of people who are selfish and people who are selfless. And there's varying levels of how much people genuinely care about each other and the team. But if you went in its simplest term, does this guy care enough? It's either a tick yes or tick no. Yeah. And it was yes, he stayed in the room. And you all know, like we all know, when you're on the field, you've got to be able to trust the guy next to you. And if for whatever reason he lets you down, then suddenly that trust starts to go, and the great thing about that group we played with was every single one of them, I could trust them with my life, and I knew that they'd get me back if I needed them, and they'd cover me off. And I think when you're part of a team, when you don't have to tell each other that, you can just see it in their eyes before you go out, before big games, when you're in dressing rooms, when you look at someone and you know that they're in it with you, then I think it's so powerful. And how you replicate that in business and other organisations and lines of work, it's difficult, but you know, we're all in the people business. Whether they can be great marketeers, probably get some in the door here. How long they stay though is whether they buy into the values, standards, behaviours, and you know, whether they're good people.
You've answered one of my questions, I think, from later on. There's a term that I really like, if you'll pardon my language, that says, I'd rather have a hole in my business than an arsehole in my business. And I think, you know, it's an example of manage without rather than have someone who drags everything down. I want to touch on leadership. You've both touched on it from different angles, and I'd like you to answer it from the different positions that you've had within in the club. Are there any specific examples you can give of where you've seen that role of leadership turn a situation around? It might be for winning a game, or it might be dealing with a challenge, whether it's in or out of work. You've obviously done it as the person that the team's looking up to. You've done it as a key player within the team that has supported everybody else. But can you think of something that sticks out in your mind of, and it might not be yourself, it might be someone that you were working with that's demonstrated that leadership?
Yeah, I think these sort of examples happen every day. So they're not unique, especially when you're a team with 30 blokes and you understand that people make mistakes and get stuff wrong, and you're always trying to help each other. That was the environment we had. But rather than look for specific examples, I think what I'd like to talk to you a bit more about is probably something Jamie's mentioned in how our leadership structure worked within the group. For want of a better word, there wasn't one. Yeah, I was captain of the team. I wore an armband and led the team out, but I think probably, certainly over the last 10 or 15, 20 years, and I've seen this in professional sport in particular, the big Churchillian leader doesn't really exist. He's there in some places, but in some shape or form, the new generation want to be led a different way, and it's more a collective approach. And I think we were probably quite early on in adopting some of this. We had some wonderful leaders, and I got made captain at 22 among some very senior, experienced guys who captained the country. I was also among some wonderful leaders, and I'd have been crazy to try and do it all on my own. When actually there were guys within our dressing room who were far better than me in certain situations, and with certain other individuals than I could get things across to them. So it was massively a collective, and that helped us as a group because we didn't just rely on one voice. And if that one voice was injured, who stepped up? Actually, within games and at different moments in training sessions or off the field or on a night out, the lads looked after each other and they had different roles and understood what they were, but always knew that the team had to come first, and that's what we tried to live by. We didn't always get it right, as I've said. When I look back at some of the leaders I played with and who actually coached me, you know, some of the head coaches I played under, there's a couple of traits that really stand out. First one would be having humility. Like the guys were prepared to say, yeah, I got that wrong, or not quite sure what this answer is, can you help me? I think it's really important with the group, and for a leader to be able to show and have that humility to be able to say, I need your help, because I think it pulls people in and creates real loyalty and support. The next one is they set high standards. So set high standards first and foremost for themselves, how they go about the business, how they work. It's always of very near top standards, but then they expect that of those around them. They don't allow for mediocrity. They don't allow for people to pull the group back. And then the last one, which is very rare, or especially when you look at British politics at the minute, but having the courage to stand up for what is absolutely right, and having integrity about what is right, what the group needs. There's not enough of it. There's too much self-preservation around. What I really enjoyed within my time at the club was there was a lot of guys with a lot of courage who were prepared to say things that were different and prepared to back themselves, and they truly believed it was the right thing for the group. And I think whilst ever you're in a team environment and you're trying to move forward and win trophies and have a great environment, if the team is always at the heart of every decision that is made, you don't go far wrong. And sadly now, I don't see enough guys who are prepared to put their head above the parapet because they're scared of being ridiculed or thrown out or getting a load of abuse on social media. Actually, if it's the right thing to be said and done, we've got to do it.
That's great. Oh, that's really great. We've talked a lot about building the right team, identifying those who are going to support and those who might not, and move them out. How do you deal with losing the key players? It's something we face as people running businesses. Some of your highest performing individuals have got career ambitions that run faster than your company can support them, and you need to let them go on to do other things with good grace. How have you managed that in the sporting world when you've seen really talented people? You've been at Leeds your entire career. Not everybody has done that. How do you manage when you lose those key players?
There's a fair bit in there.
I think to start, this is a really difficult question for us to answer because we've not really been in positions where we're losing high quality staff or people, or we've not been in control of that. And so we're probably looking at it from a different side here.
For me, the word that comes into my mind is loyalty with that. Kev's spoken on multiple occasions about players that could have gone off and played at different clubs, earned more money, but they didn't. You listen, you watch the film there as good as it gets from 2017. We wanted to achieve something better than that. Having another 20, 30 grand in your bank compared to having 7 grand final wins can't be beat. Can't be beat. And I grew up in Leeds, so it was never a question of me ever wanting to play for anybody else. Anyway, I think when you love the place that you work and you've got that feeling of belonging, why on earth would you want to go anywhere else? You'd rather drag the tide up there. There's an old saying, isn't it, when the tide rises, all the boats go with it, and we were constantly trying to drag the tide up, and we did. So it's hard because when players have left, players have currently left this year, who've gone different places, I'm thinking, why they've instigated it, and it hurts me. Thinking, why on earth would you want to leave here? Best place in the world. Literally is the best rugby league club in the country. Why on earth would you want to leave it? It's been measured recently by MG as the best rugby league club. Why would you want to leave? It can only be because they don't feel that sense of purpose and belonging, which is our fault. We've got to make them not ever want to leave. And you might feel different. I don't know.
No, I agree with everything you've said, and I think with recruitment, a lot of sport now is pulled together, especially recruitment, is pulled together through algorithms and pulled together through some data scientists who crunch all the numbers and say, this player here is better than that one. But what they'll never be able to measure is the leadership quality or the experience, or how good this guy works under pressure. What is he like with the group? Does he get those around him to play better every week just from him being there, or does he have the opposite effect? The numbers will never tell you that, the data will never tell you that. So there's always some unknown, and you guys all know when you're recruiting people, it's a massive risk, right? Yeah. And there's some people who you think, I can replace him or her, but very quickly realise, actually, they did a bit more than what we thought. They didn't just do the job description. Actually, the way they operated and brought people together, we can't put a value on that. So what I would say in this is if you've got good staff, try and keep them.
Yeah.
And then, recruitment's tough, right? You get some right, you get some wrong, and like I said before, how talented somebody can be, and or how academic, or what degree they got, or what experience they got, will get them in the door. How long they stay will be down to the people you're prepared to work with and you want in your business. And I wouldn't shy away from the fact that if you set some standards and values and behaviours and they come from the top right from day one, and whoever's in charge of the ship is displaying those values every single day, you'll find out very, very quickly whether they should be in there or not. I know we've not particularly answered the question. It's a difficult one because we're not in recruitment. And it's probably the $1 million question that's out there for most businesses at the minute.
But you've been part of something really special, and I guess that's one of the reasons for it. You touched on something there that I wanted to pick up with, all around pressure. You've been the captain for so many years, you've dealt with that. Can you identify when that pressure is a positive force that's driving you, but can you identify when actually it's not, and it's a negative force? Because you must have had to deal with that so many times in your career.
I would say I don't remember a time in my life without pressure.
Right.
But it was all I put on myself. So I signed, as I mentioned earlier, I signed professionally at 13. I wanted to be a professional rugby player from the age of 11. And from the age of 11, I put pressure on myself. When I watched some of those great players play for Great Britain and England, I mentioned Ellie Ranley before, when I watched him on TV and I'm going, I want to be like this guy. And that was a pressure I put on myself. Then from that point on, being in good teams, wanting to be better every day, the outside noise never became part of it. I was aware of it. I think it's important to be aware of it. Didn't read any of the media, but I had enough people around me who'd let me know what were going on and what were being said. But we mentioned before, the pair of us, about being in adversity in tough times. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, me as an individual, but certainly that great team we both played in, played its best stuff when it were under pressure and it were backed against the wall. So you could say the group needed that pressure. I needed that pressure. I needed that adversity. Life can get too comfortable and cushy. For whatever reason, I were built that way, and actually miss a life when there isn't that sort of pressure in my life. Again, I'd like to think it's me who's applying the pressure. I can apply more pressure to myself than anybody else can. So I think when you play for the Rhinos, you understand the expectation.
Yeah.
I think when you win trophies year after year, you understand that there is a real expectation that you go better the year after, and you understand that you have to improve. And the minute you stop, then it's probably your time within the team is up. So.
And how do you handle that when things aren't going so well? So, and I'll ask Jamie this question. Obviously, you've just got back from France and it hasn't necessarily finished the way you'd hoped it would. But when you've got what you think is a winning team, how do you deal with that adversity when it hasn't gone your way and the tournament's over and you didn't get the result that you wanted? How do you pick yourself back up?
I always think about the Rudyard Kipling poem, if triumph and disaster treat those two impostors just the same. So success, or what you might perceive as failure, are just two momentary pieces of feedback. And you get to a point where you go, it's either irrelevant after the fact. So whether you're walking back up that tunnel at Old Trafford successful or having lost, if it's in the past, it's irrelevant. It's about what you do the next day. I always lean on 2014 when we won our first Challenge Cup. That generation, that cohort won the first Challenge Cup 2014. And I think we'd had 6 grand finals up to that point. Everybody's going, why can't you win a Challenge Cup? We eventually got there through quite a boring game plan, wasn't it? We beat Cass, went to go batter Luke Dawn, sent Ryan Bailey down, bashed him to bits, and we got the win. But we didn't win a single game for the rest of the year. There's about maybe 7, 8, 9 games left to play, and it was almost like bags had gone down. Most other end of the seasons, it's the last game that's the grand final, but we didn't win another game. And it was then when I realised whether you win or lose on a Friday night isn't as important as how you deal with it on a Saturday morning. You start walking around like Conor McGregor after a win. The people who are outside you are going to come flying past. To quote the tattoo on JP's back, the man in the arena, Theodore Roosevelt, when you're in the arena and you get sat on your backside and you're going through adversity, you feel like you're failing. Then if you're one of those that's too scared to get back into the arena, you're never going to progress either. So it doesn't matter whether you've won or lost. What's important is that you keep moving forward. What I've learned in my journey is successful people are never bigger, stronger, faster or more intelligent. It's just the people that keep turning up at the start line. You keep turning up every morning. And that's why I love the metaphors, the analogies of marathons. For me, what impresses me the most is Kev turning up every day at the start line in the morning. Because you think, who on earth wants to do that? And sometimes being under pressure, people say pressure's a privilege. If you're under pressure, it means that you're in a position where other people are relying on you, which means that you must be a leader, you must be at the forefront of something. So you're growing, and I can't give you a formula to make it feel any better. That pressure, that anxiety, expectation around it, it never gets any better. But I would say that we can't grow unless we get out of our comfort zone. So you better get comfortable with being uncomfortable pretty quick, because otherwise you're either going to stagnate and stop still, or you're going to start going backwards. So when I get out of bed, when I get into bed some nights, I get into bed, fetal position, thinking, oh, why did I say that? Why didn't I do this a bit different? I'm embarrassed because I got too far out of my comfort zone and got burnt. But by heck, when I wake up the next morning, I'm more aware and I've grown. I'm more experienced and I'll deal with that situation better next time.
That's great. I've got one last question for you and one last question for Kev. And Kev, you called it exactly right. When I showed him a big list of questions that I had, is that we'll probably get through a fraction of these, and you're right, I've skipped ahead a little bit here. But just staying with you, Jamie, you touched on it earlier. You've taken this new role, head of culture, diversity and inclusivity at the Rhinos. What does that role entail? It's quite a grand title, but you strike me as someone who's a very practical, engaged person. What do you actually do in that role? It's
beautiful. I'll start off by saying I love the club. I love Leeds Rhinos, the brand, what it stands for. And Kev was the original cultural architect, in my opinion. And I always describe the Rhinos right now at Dudley Stadium being a fertile, diverse, inclusive flower bed of opportunity. It's as simple as that. And by flower bed, I mean we've got a load of seeds and seeds of the people that have been thrown in there over the last 27 years. And there's a degree of manufacturing there, but it's all organic. People have grown, and what's manifest is this diverse range of fulfilled potential. When I started there as a 15-year-old, there was just one men's team, and lots of great journeys have come about for that. Lots of positive, inspiring stories. But in 2023, we've got a men's team, we've got a women's team that played at Wembley this year. First ever women's team to play in the Challenge Cup final at Wembley. They played in a grand final as well. Lots of girls realising their potential in the vehicle of sport, Rugby League, under the Rhinos brand. We've got a wheelchair Rugby League team, people who have been blown up in Afghanistan and Iraq who thought their lives had come to an end and have found a new purpose and a belonging in wheelchair Rugby League. And it's not a disability sport, by the way, it's an inclusivity sport. Anybody in this room can play wheelchair Rugby League. And that is the idea that a father can play with a daughter, such a diverse group, and new people finding a new way to fulfil their potential. We've got a learning disability team, kids with maybe autism and all kinds of different learning disabilities that come and find a new tribe, a new group to be who they are. And when you talk to their parents and their friends and peers, the way it helps them to fulfil their lives or feel fulfilled. We've got a physical disability team as well. And for me, it's a tough job because we're in the people business, and everybody's diverse, everybody needs something different. And it actually, just to separate it, I want to just move culture there really quick without taking too much time on this. Because the challenge is diversity and inclusivity. It challenges culture to a degree, because culture is to cultivate, it is a cult, and a cult is a group of people with really clear defined sets of behaviours and values. But what I found is by inviting diversity, you're actually inviting different opinions, different beliefs, backgrounds, which is brilliant, by the way, really important. But somewhere when you've got a blue and amber jersey on, you've got to have some real defined and clear objectives and values that you're going to stick to. Otherwise it's chaos and everybody suffers it. But my overarching sort of emotion towards it, I mentioned it, is love. And I sat on a sofa on BBC, and I know it's a bit deep this at 10 to 11 on a Monday morning, but I was talking about what Kev was doing for Rob, and what people think love is the agape, the Greek version, which is like the unconditional, where you dive on a grenade for you to save a teammate or a comrade. It's a verb. It's not an emotion. It's a doing. So love is a doing. It's what you do. Kev talked about people within your workplace that go above and beyond. When you see people doing that, that is like love in itself. That is the root. The emotion is then the fruit, what everybody enjoys. And when you see that, you're attracted to it. You don't want to leave it, and then you're compelled to give more yourself. Mm-hmm. And we've all seen what Kev's done for Rob, and most of you would have seen when I got injured in that 2015, the best year at Rhinos, with all the domestic trophies. I couldn't play Tommy Quad at semi, and Kev rang me up, says, when we win, I want you to come up and lift trophy with me. And he did, without going through the full story. And it was just again symbolic of the fact that even though I couldn't play, he was telling me I was no less a part of that group. Who does that? You know, who thinks about those little details? We could have just gone, smashed another trophy out, added it to tally of all his accolades, and been the captain on the big day, but he didn't. He's always thinking about his mates, and that is love, that is care. And I think when you get that within an environment, then people will go above and beyond. They don't want to leave. They are loyal. They'll fulfil the potential. They'll go to bed feeling like they're fulfilled on a night. And I, in my job, just doing my best, and it's hard. It's hard because people are like cats out there. They all want to go off in certain directions. Some of them can be like pirates at times because they've got different objectives, and everybody's job role is nuanced. For example, the foundation is different to our management, different to the teams because they've all got different objectives. But if you can show some collective love through them all, then you can bring them together, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Brilliant. Good luck with that, Kevin. I'm going to finish my last question to you, and we're going to open it up for everyone. And I've got a feeling you might know where this is going to go. You've touched on some of the amazing challenges that you've taken part in to support Rob, to support the MND Association. If anyone's watched any of the documentaries or if they've read your book, you've been not too subtle in hinting that maybe there might be something else coming on. And I know you can't necessarily share all of that right now, but is there anything you can tell us about the next activity? And if so, we've got business leaders in the room with us today. We've got another 100 of them watching on the live stream. What is it that people can do to help and support you?
Well, I think you all know the story, so I won't get myself upset and try and talk you through it again. But yes, we're going again. We're going again. So 3 weeks on Friday we set off. A lot of planning's been taking place while I've been away at the World Cup. I got back from the World Cup last Sunday, not yesterday, the Sunday before. Had 2 days at home, and then I ran 3 marathons Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to try and get ready. That's what my life looks like at the minute. So yeah, we go again 3 weeks on Friday. I can think of a million reasons why we shouldn't go again. But there's one big reason why we should, and we've just spoke about it here, how important it is to care and look after each other. And we can stop and we can draw a line under it and say we've done enough, or we can try and help some more people, and Rob's certainly at the heart of that and the forefront of it. But it's gone much wider than that now with the MND community. There's 5,000 people across the UK with MND, and suddenly they don't feel ashamed or embarrassed to leave the houses anymore. They understand that people across the UK genuinely care about them because they've shown that with the money that's been so generously given. The support we've had has been incredible. The support for that community has been unbelievable. The people we've met, the people with MND who've been roadside when we ran past, seeing people come out of the house for the first time in 2 years on breathing apparatus when they've not left the house, but they came out to see us, has been really touching. But yeah, we go again, and I think what's been, the team we have probably feel a little bit selfish because the fulfilment we've been able to get from providing hope and helping people over the last 3 challenges that we talked about success before and wanting more, and because it tastes good and feels good. I actually don't think there's a better feeling than providing hope to a community that's been ravaged, and our team, when we talk about, they are so different and so diverse, and if you sit down and look at the 18 people we've put together, you'd be scratching your head going, how does that work, and how do you get on with him, and you're rooming with him, and he does this and she does that. But actually it works. The chemistry between the group and understanding they're all there as volunteers. This is not a Kipchoge sub-2 hour marathon. This is also not a family fun run. This is somewhere right in the middle, and we have a sweet spot as a group, but we know that when we're out on the road, it means business. Outside of that, we'll have a good time, and we'll try and share some moments with some special people across the UK, and support's been incredible. We're on BBC Breakfast Wednesday morning to announce what we're doing. It's based around marathons again, and we're going to take it around the UK, and we've got a little trip over to Ireland as well where we'll run over there. So
And how can businesses help you?
Yeah, so so far, I'd love to say sponsorship. The support we have had, we started year one, which was thrown together out the boot of my car really, when we did 7 marathons, and we started that year with Rob's old sponsor at the club. He wanted to give an amount of money to support Rob. And through Rob Oates, who's here today, the commercial director at the Rhinos, mentioned it to me, and I said, well, would he support a run if we did a run? And you know, it would kick us off, and we started day one with 40 grand. We finished day one with 100k, so, and before we knew it, we were at 2 million, so that was the first one. So how people can support, we obviously got space on the running vest, where people can become benefactors, for want of a better way, because actually you get very little in return other than you feel like the ready Brett man like we do. You start to glow about yourself because you help a community that have been ravaged, or you can donate. But I think when you hear some of the figures surrounding MND, you know, 50% die within the first 2 years of diagnosis, a third die within the first 12 months. It affects everybody. This is not a disease for people who are unfit. It normally goes after fit and healthy people. They still don't understand why. We are no nearer finding a cure. There's a lot of different tests going and research projects that are taking place across the UK. And I think what the great Doddy Weir was able to do was pull a lot of great minds, the best scientists and researchers across the UK together. So there was a collaboration and approach to research which has never been done before. And one of the things I'm really proud that our team have been able to do, because we've been able to support something called MND Smart. Now MND Smart is a trial and a series of trials that take place. So if the 4 of us get diagnosed with MND, which heaven forbid we don't, it means that none of us will be on a placebo, so we all get something. So during this trial they might be testing 8 different drugs. We are guaranteed 1 or all 8. We don't know because you're not allowed to know. Yeah. But MND Smart ensures all 4 of us have got a chance. Whereas previously in a lot of trials where there's a placebo element, somebody's missing out. So we've been able to focus some of our fundraising towards that. We've also been able to make sure 50% have gone towards support and caring for families who are currently diagnosed or who have lost family members through people passing, or for future generations now who get diagnosed, that there is the right support and care. Because if you think suddenly you've gone from being able-bodied and you get diagnosed with MND, very quickly parts of your body stop working, you stop being able to speak. How you communicate, can we provide a piece of technology so it enables you to communicate like Rob's got? Mm-hmm. Do you need a specially designed wheelchair? Do you need adaptations to your home? Do your children need memory boxes so that they can remember mum or dad or grandma and granddad, depending on who's been diagnosed? So we put all these different things in place now alongside the charities we work with that enable whatever journey someone has to go on with their family and friends through MND. It's a much better, smoother, much more humane way of attacking MND. And we'll keep going, we'll keep fighting. I know there's a lot of people who've supported already. But you can see I'm pretty passionate about it when one of your best mates is diagnosed, and we've talked about today about how important it is to care for each other, how through tough times bringing together, well, this is just an extension of our team and what we played, how we played together, how we looked after each other, and hopefully that comes across.
That's fantastic. Good luck for the launch on Wednesday, and I know we'll be tracking. As expected, we've gone massively over time, but I don't know if you wanted to open up for a couple of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, just before that, I don't think I've done a few events like this, but I've never wanted to clap after every answer. So I don't know whether we just want to put our hands together for Jamie and Kevin. Really, it really has been a privilege to listen to both of you this morning, and very, very much the best of luck for the next challenge. Now, I'm sure there are some questions out there. If anyone wants to put their hands up, and we can have one. I'm sure there is somewhere. Yeah, there we go at the back.
With all your wealth of knowledge and experience, what's the advice? If you had a time travel machine and you go back 20 years, what would be the two main things you would tell your younger self 20 years ago?
So let me just repeat that for the benefit of the audience watching online. So if you had a time travel machine, what would you tell yourselves if you could go back?
Did you say there were two things?
Two things, please.
Two things.
Probably the Euro Millions numbers from last weekend. Because it may not be able to make a real dent in the research for M&D. Probably the thing I'd tell myself would be to enjoy the successes a bit more. Unfortunately in sport, like I mentioned earlier, you move on too quickly, and a grand final win, a test match win, can be over very, very quickly, and you can start to think about what's to come. I wish I'd have allowed myself to stay in the moment a bit longer. Unfortunately, that's how I'm wired, but I'd love to have been able to enjoy that a bit more.
Yeah, difficult question. If there was one, it'd be to do things properly, a little bit better. I've got joints, fingers that are like a bag of Twiglets at the minute, and I've got backbones, joints, because I was that driven. I'd do it any old how. However, I had to get it up there, and I'd bit my back, neck, and everything doing it. But actually, I wouldn't change much else, because I think that's the only way to learn through. I mean, the obvious thought is that we go back and warn ourselves against errors and mistakes, but only through making the mistakes do we get the knowledge of understanding of wisdom, ultimately. And in many ways, I do this anyway, because I've got 4 boys, and I see myself in each of them, and every time they get a new birthday, my oldest is 17 now, 17 last week, and I'm always trying to impress upon them the lessons that I've learned, but at the same time, I'm limited to how much I give them, because they've got to fall over. I've just got to be there to pick them up and to show them that I am there to pick them up, and to let them know that it's important for them to be there to pick their brothers up. It's just about that love and care again, but I wouldn't tell myself too much, I don't think.
Yeah. Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah, so my question is, you became captain at 22. How quickly did you put your framework or guide rails in place to create this team and this structure for your people and for everybody to work around?
It wasn't a structure that was ever written down. I'd actually been a captain since I was 10, and I was a captain when I was 32, exactly the same as I was when I was 10, which might sound a bit bizarre to understand. And I'll talk a little bit about that moment, because it probably shares with you how the rest of it worked for me. But I played for Lancashire under-9s over in Hull against Humberside. Little Kevin got picked and went over on a coach to play in Hull, and I was a sub that day. And my mum and dad had gone over, like first bit of representative rugby. Like I said, I'm 9. I got on for about 3 minutes at the end, and we absolutely pumped Humberside, and everyone was so happy. I was gutted because I got 3 minutes, going all the way to Hull, to drive all the way back. And I said to myself on the coach journey home, that won't happen to me again. So a couple of months after, we go for Lancashire trial. It's a place called Oral St James. I had to put an Oral St James kit on, I can remember it. Right? Royal blue with a amber V, ironically. And I remember getting picked in this trial team and looking around thinking, because I knew the guys who I played against in Lancashire at the time, and I'm like, this team's rubbish I'm with. We're going to get pumped, and if we get pumped, that means I can't stand out, and if I can't stand out, I'm going to end up little Kevin again on a coach to Humberside and get 3 minutes. And that ain't happening, so I grabbed hold of the group, and I think out of that team there were 13 of us. I think 9 of us got selected for Lancashire that year, a squad of 25, and I got made captain from that one day. And ever since, you know, I often think to myself, like a sliding doors moment, what would have happened if I'd not been picked? But thankfully I did, and from that moment, all I tried to do that day was get the best out of those around me, and get those who were a 5 out of 10 to a 6, get those who were a 6 out of 10 to a 7. And I thought, by trying to wrap this around us and get everybody working together as a group and as a team, because what normally happened in a trial game is you all do what makes you stand out, but actually let's work together here and we'll all come through. And thankfully the vast majority did, and so it wasn't wasn't really, I turned up at 22 and was given the captaincy and you've gone, right boys, we're going to work to the structure. There was just a feel to it, and there was a group that had been captained by me in the academy team or the reserve team. I said before about some of the senior players who'd been there a long time and not really tasted much success at the Rhinos and were ready for something new and to try something different. They understood that the club were going to go, we've invested a lot of money year after year after year in our youth policy, but never really let it go and give it its head. And the senior players supported that, and we went after it. So it wasn't anything. It's only now when people ask about what it looked like, you try and explain it, and it might come over as very structural, but it weren't. It was pretty fluid, and I think there's some feel within the dressing room, knowing, actually understanding, like what sort of message needed to go across. And if JP or Jamie were going to say something about being really physical and being aggressive, well, it made sense for them guys to do it rather than me. If something needed to come across that was maybe a bit more tactical or technical about what we're going to go after next, that probably came from me or some of our halfbacks. So understanding how that worked, there was a fair bit of feel in there as well.
Great, thanks. Any more from the audience? Yes, hi, Robert.
Yeah, what a fantastic insight and a privilege to be here today, guys. It's just been extraordinary. I worked with England Wales Cricket Board about 10 years ago, and the thing that always fascinated me, which has really been pinpointed by what you've been saying, is the role of the captain with the nucleus in the team and the coach, and then the managing director or the structure of the company. How do you blend those things together? Because what's come across today from this discussion is the strength of the team and the captain within that group. But there's lots of other things going on around it. So the role of the coach and the other parts of the team, how do they blend together to give you that success?
Well, it come down to alignment, really. I think I was pretty lucky throughout my whole time there as being a captain that I got on with every head coach we had. We always had a great relationship. You know, there was a short period of time in 2015 where there was a breakdown in that with the head coach, but we was fixed up pretty quickly. Within that, there's a constant. The CEO was the same. So you've got a CEO and a captain who were the same for the vast majority of that time. And then a head coach came in and gave a different philosophy or a different view. It was refreshing for us. But I think ultimately the head coach we brought in were all good people and all understood what the Rhinos stood for, understood the behaviours and values, and you know, some of that was the recruitment that came from above with the board getting the right head coach in and understanding what fit was needed for that player group at that time. So some good leadership from above, and then the head coaches obviously have to come in and do a good job, and they did. I think we had a pretty receptive playing group that were willing to adjust and tweak and change because we just wanted to improve and be better. So how aligned we were is really, really important, and I think that clearly that comes from the top if it's communicated in the right way. And you all want to see the person in charge living the behaviours, don't you? We all want to see it because it shows us the way. Unfortunately, some organisations and clubs, that isn't always the case, and that's why for periods of time teams will go off in a different route. How important it's been, or it was for us at the time, was we had a consistent group of players, we had a core group of young players that came through together, and suddenly we're all 26, 27, 28, and we've had 8, 9, 10 years of playing together. That's invaluable in a group like that, because you know even at times when you're under intense pressure, and I'll give you 2 years as an example. 2011 and 2012, we finished 5th. No panic, no worries. Nobody's ever won it from 5th. Let's go and do it. Let's give it a go. And do it once in 2011, and we found ourselves in exactly the same situation the year after, and we go, we've done it before, let's do it again. And there's just a belief about the group because you're aligned and you understand what it takes.
If I could just come back on that, what comes across really powerfully is that strength of the nucleus of the team and you and the captain. So often at the moment we see the team's underperforming, get rid of the coach, bring somebody else in, but that's really on the edge of it. What the strength of what you're talking about is within that group and the team itself, isn't it?
It's all about the players. Always has been, always will be. I've just come back from being with England Rugby Union now. It's all about the players. You get some great players who are good people, you'll do some wonderful things.
I think we can be guilty sometimes as well of making it sound like it was really rosy and brilliant and all shining and sunflowers every day, but it won't either.
No.
Wigan have got a sign above their changing rooms. I think it might have come from Amazon. It says disagree and commit. So like a lot of times we disagreed about things, but then when you cross the white line, you're committed. So if it's Kev's idea and I don't like it, I'll tell him I don't like it and think, well, I think maybe we could go about it like this. He'd win every time. And then, but when we cross that line, I would give 110% of what I could give to his idea. Because there's no ego there, and I know that he'd do exactly the same for me when it's my turn to choose. So it won't always rosy. Don't be uncomfortable. Like I said, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Some days are horrendous. That's part of life. That's great. It's good. It should be challenging and hard, and it's not always rosy and sunflowers.
Just on that point, we would regularly, under different coaches, get given game plans. So each week for a different opposition, you'd have a plan. And we'd regularly sit in team meetings and come out and go, what the hell was that? Like, but the fact we all went, we'll go after it, we'll throw ourselves at it. And you come to a point where we get to early 30s and we're going, doesn't matter what game plan we've got, as long as we all know what we're doing, we'll win.
One of our game plans one year was, I remember Brian Mack, he said, team that will win this week will be team that gets off at floor quickest. That was it. Well, if you got tackled or you made a tackle, just try to get up quicker than the other guy. And that in itself, it just brought about a level of urgency. Really quickly, like the cultural architect on the field with the team, I had that nailed. Any coach that comes in, just change colour on wall, gives it a bit of a new direction, a new narrative for the season, and freshened it up. And then you've got to mention Gary Everton, like as a genius in sort of leveraging the success on the field with bringing resourcing and partnering with local businesses, local authority, and making the Rhinos this shining light that it has been on the landscape of Leeds. So it is a binary thing. It was a perfect storm, I think, and context is king. The context was perfect at that period of time.
Right, I think we may have time for one more if there's any more out there, otherwise. Yes, yeah, Simon.
Both inspirational figures, be that on the pitch, later in life we do charity work, now we're moving into community and things like that, Jim. But is there one person to both of you that inspires you outside of sport?
Good question.
Outside of sport, I probably take most of my inspiration from sport, actually. So Jamie, Rob, the group that we played with, who you're still in touch with, still inspire me all the time. My big inspiration has always been my family, my kids and my wife. So, we all want to make it better for them, and understand that by going through some tough times, that hopefully make it a bit easier for someone else. So, there's not one big figure out there that I can say it's her or him who massively inspire me. I don't actually think it matters where you get your inspiration or your motivation from. I think the fact that you get some is what's really, really important. And if you're open enough to be able to go... I mean, I watched a film on Netflix last night about a swimmer who swam from Cuba to Florida. A female swimmer who does it at 64-year-old, and I'm sat there thinking, what am I watching this for? But actually, there's a real message and story in it. And actually, you get to the end of it and you go, yeah, I know what I'm doing in just over 3 weeks' time. I'm going, this will help me. This will help me at some point during the runs. I'll be able to go back and go, remember that swimmer?
Is that how you get into Ireland?
We'll have to add that bit in. I don't think we get there in time.
I love human beings, me. I think I can learn from anybody and everybody. And I'm full of gratitude. It's probably overarching emotion that I have most days. We've got a team there, great guys there, back there with Jimmy, Joe, Robin, and I'm inspired by some of the work ethic that they put in. Chris, Rob Oates, Kev, as you know, is the most influential person in my life. I learn from everybody. I just love being around human beings and anybody who's committed, who's caring, altruistic, benevolent, thinking about others, displays some real quality virtues. And that evolves over time. Sometimes I'm blown away what people do at certain ages. When Kev was talking about like being 9-year-old and sitting on a bus going, that's never going to happen to me again. I'm thinking about my 10-year-old, you know, if he was on a bus at Wales from a game, all he's bothered about is whether he's nipping through KFC on way home. Just this aptitude and ability to thrive in your potential. But with me, like some real clear values. I've seen this Matthew McConaughey speech on YouTube. Just type it in, Matthew McConaughey, and he talks about his heroes, and his hero is him in 10 years. And it's all about this attitude to having a growth mindset and just being a little bit better based on his experiences and what he can learn from people. But mine are really clear. At the foundations is my faith. I've spoke about that, what I believe in. That forms, I reckon, 90% of my subconscious. Then my family, I've mentioned my wife and my 4 kids, unconditional love every time I go home. Then my friends, I've got to make time to surround myself with friends because that's where I get most of my fun, inspiration, education, entertainment. And then it's fitness and fortitude. Because life's physical, it's bleeding hard, so you've got to get some sort of resilience in life, and quite often that comes from being physically active. Finance is like a blood flow, and that'll flow through the service or product that I'm able to provide. So I've got to be good at mastering my craft to be able to provide something. And then fun. What's the point in doing anything if you're not going to have a smile at the end of it, which hopefully will manifest a degree of freedom. And they all begin with F. And then the title at the top, and this is on my wall, by the way, in my shed in my gym, I've got the word become. Because what the biggest mistake I made was when I retired, I didn't define what I wanted to do next because I fulfilled my boy dream in that first 45. So I'm like, I've done, if life's a game, I'll finish. But I've got another, God willing, 45 years left, so what do I do now? Kev used to talk about working hard, do it right thing. The right thing's interesting because that depends on a moral anchor and a moral thread. Who owns the agency on what the right thing is? I knew what it was when I was a player with Kev. I don't really know now all the time. So I'm always trying to define what the right thing. Work hard, do the right thing. But if you haven't got a destination, to quote Seneca, no wind is advantageous unless you know what port you're sailing to. So where the hell are you going? What are you doing? What do you want to become? Which is why that's my title. And the only way I can become, if you take the word apart, B, C-O-M-E. Starts with B, finishes with me. Only way I can become best version of myself is being me. So Kev talks about the diversity within a group, the authentic self, being the best version of yourself. I've got to be me. Can't be him, can't be JP or anybody else, got to be me. And then the C-O in the middle represents comfort zone, get out of it, company, the 5 people I surround myself with, and confidence. And confidence comes from what Mike Bates would call the prior wall of evidence. So that's everything you've ever done since losing egg and spoon race at 3 years old to passing your driving test and all those incremental little wins and losses along the way. So I take inspiration from people, but I'd encourage everybody to reflect, if not daily, at least weekly, who are you, where are you going, and who do you want to be? Because if you don't define that, how on earth are you ever going to get there?
How's that for a wrap-up?
Wow. Well, absolutely incredible. I did promise you it was going to be a fascinating morning, and I think we can surely say it has been. So I think let's put our hands together for Jamie and for Kevin.
Thanks, fellas. Just a final thank you from everyone at Hub to the Prolific North team for helping us lay this on, to the RAM team for helping us run this, and for 2 incredibly eloquent and deep thinking individuals. I'm hoping my team are watching this in the office and have got as much out of it as I had. And good luck with the next event. Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.